going to be a presentation on rhetorical reading, the role of the readers in conversational inquiry. So there are two stories about writing. There's an informational view. The text has one single fixed meaning in that it just gives information, and readers take the role of just tell me with an expectation that the text is right and can only mean one thing. Then there's the research-based. With research-based reading, readers are encouraged to see readings as opinions, perspectives, and voices of writers. The texts are people that are talking. So if texts are people talking, that means that you make sense of the text by the perception of who is speaking, why, and from what perspective they are speaking. No one is truly neutral. In this way, you construct meaning and make sense of the text. This is extremely important, especially given the motives and most articles and news stories written and published online, and then they come across you, maybe on a social media page or on Google, in Google searches, and sometimes in your spam email. The point of these articles is to draw your attention and elicit an emotion. Has anyone heard of rhetoric before this? If not, you've probably heard of pathos, ethos, and logos. These articles often try to play to your emotions and establish a form of credibility by either subliminally claiming that they are right by tone and word usage, or bashing other people that disagree with them and demolishing the other person's credibility. Understanding who you're reading, why they are writing, and taking knowledge you have from outside the article will all give you the ability to construct the meaning of the text and really see what is being said. Rhetoric deals with more than just ethos, pathos, and logos. Rhetoric is discourse. It is how we are using the words, why we are using those words, and what effect those words have on people. It is communicating effectively while also understanding there are various different discourse communities to speak to and knowing good ways of speaking to them. Rhetoric is difficult to understand. It's a complex concept that goes all the way back to Aristotle, so I completely understand if this is a bit much to grasp right now. We will work with writing rhetorically throughout the semester, but this assignment in particular for this past week is focusing on rhetorical preces. So to move on from this, we'll look at elements of rhetorical reading. So as I mentioned before, being a rhetorical reader is having an awareness of what you are reading and and with what that reading is trying to get you to understand, agree with, or do. Reading rhetorically emphasizes readers and writers' motives, the need shared by readers and writers which called for the creation and consumption of the piece to begin with, and the context and moments in which the text was written and read, and the values and expectations that readers bring to the text. So there's a few points that I want to make here. So writers and readers have motives. Texts say what they say because writers are motivated by a variety of purposes. Readers can construct the meaning of the text if they're aware of its writer's motives, and wiser meaning when they know these motives and what these motives are. So if anybody is a fan of Harry Potter, the Dementors in Harry Potter are dark creatures that consume human happiness, creating an ambiance of coldness, darkness, misery, and despair. Because of their power to drain happiness and hope from humans, they have been set the duty of being guards of Azkaban, where they prevent the prisoners from having the will or ability to escape. J.K. Rowling wrote the Dementors into existence as a way to express what she was feeling when battling depression after her mother died. Rune spores are another example. They are three-headed snakes that she deems to be representative of the writing process. So one head of the snake is a dreamer, a second head is a planner, and the third head is the critic. The dreamer comes up with the ideas, the planner comes up with ways to make it happen, and the critic points out flaws. The dreamer and the planner don't like the fact that there are flaws being pointed out to them, so they often bite the critic's head off and subsequently killing them all. Rowling says this is true about writing. You can think and plan for these amazing ideas, but without thinking critically about your own work and recognizing flaws or taking constructive criticism, your writing will die and not progress. Knowing this, you might have a different perspective on the novels or have a more in-depth perception of them. As a reader, you should find out the motives of the writers. 9 times out of 10, they don't just write to give you facts. There's a reason they wrote what they did and in a style and tone that they did. Texts are called into being by a need shared between writers and readers. Exigence is the need or reason for a given act of communication. In conversational inquiry, the exigence for a text is usually that there's something we don't know and need to. And writing and reading that text will help fill in what people are missing in terms of knowledge. Exigence is different from motives. Exigence is a call for some answers, new knowledge, or request for action. Motives are writers answering the call in their own forms, and readers who see the call and want to know what the answer is. For instance, the text gives an example of a political campaign. Tell Senator Cricket to vote against big polluters in our backyard. The exigence of the ad answers the questions. Why are we being told this, and why is this a thing? Digging further, you find out that Cricket is a swing vote in the decision to store nuclear waste in your state. That being said, the storage of waste, the upcoming vote, and the voters' ability to pressure representatives are exigence for the ad. This is a need for action, a call for action, and campaign managers or whomever writes the ads now have a motive for writing the campaign ad. Context shapes how readers construct a text's meaning. Context refers to the circumstances surrounding a text's exigence, including where a text comes from and where it appears. Context meaning cultural and society, time period, and other outside influences. In order to understand a text and construct meaning, the reader has to be oriented to the context surrounding the text. Looking at Senator Cricket's campaign ad again. Nuclear energy has been around since 1945 and has shown to not emit greenhouse gases compared to other frequently used energy sources. However, nuclear waste is extremely harmful, hence the heated debate about whether it's actually worth it or not. However, prior to 1945, nuclear development was focused on the atomic bomb between 1938 and 1945. So if you show this ad to anyone in 1939 or even before, they would have absolutely no clue what it's talking about, why it was important, or even know it was a thing at all. Think about the first time that you read Romeo and Juliet, Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, Pride and Prejudice, or even To Kill a Mockingbird. With no context at all, nothing about the society or culture at the time it was written, having no sense of history or just no context at all, you probably think, what did I just read? What is going on? And why is this important for me to know? Put into terms of conversational inquiry, context shapes what the conversation means and how the conversation happens. Readers bring their own needs, values, and expectations to texts. There are 4 ideas when going into reading texts. Number 1, knowledge is the world and how texts and reading work. Um, Number two, they have a need to be reading that particular text. Number three, they have certain values they hold to the text. This can be whether they like in depth information or a social consciousness. Some readers will value how well an inquiry was addressed and described. Number four, they have a specific expectation for what the text will do. And B, most of the time they are genre based expectations. So, for instance, um, you expect the contents of a card that says happy birthday on it, on the front, to have a birthday message inside, not a date, time, and venue of a wedding.